Thanks for
So
joining us. I am Julie Floyd, the founder and CEO of Styled Life and the Styled Life Crown Club. I just want to welcome you to our latest webinar featuring natural hair wellness expert Miyoshi Dorsey, who will delve into the intriguing psychology of Black hair. As members of the Styled Life Crown Club, we appreciate the unique journey of embracing our natural hair texture. It's a journey that can impact our mental health and overall well-being. Being part of this community offers a supportive space where we can relate to each other's experiences. Now, let's hear from Miyoshi as she enlightens us on the fascinating psychology behind our natural hair. Thank you, Miyoshi.
thank you, Julie. It's just such an honor to be here tonight. Thank you for allowing me to be on this platform. Again, my name is Miyoshi Dorsey, and I am the CEO and founder of Mind for Wellness. And Mind for Wellness focuses on three major components, and that's the mind, the body, and the spirit. And our goal is to make sure that all three of these components are in balance. And how do we do that? We talk to you, we do assessment, and find out which areas need to be addressed so that you can have overall health and wellness. So if you would like to know more about Mindful Wellness, you can go on the website at www.mindfulwellness.com. And in the menu section, which is on the upper left-hand corner, click on there, there's three lines, and just browse through there. And I would actually encourage you to look specifically at our online shop because we have not only natural wellness products, but we also have merchandise such as the Wellness and Recovery swag bag. We have the therapy journal, and we also have the Stress Less kit, which is actually one of the gifts I will be giving away tonight.
Thank you. All right, so let's kind of jump in and get started. So,
Okay.
Miyoshi, it kind of feels like almost on a daily basis, there is a headline on natural hair being discriminated against and deemed unacceptable in certain settings, workplace, school. What do you think about that?
Well, I would just say this, that after speaking with so many people about this subject and also going through this personally, and let me just talk about that first. And I first started my hair journey 15 years ago, approximately. It was interesting because we didn't have all of the access to the various hair platforms like we do today. And of course, like Style Life. And so I was on this journey by myself. So when I actually started wearing my hair natural, originally my hair just was all over the place because I had my new hair growing in, but then for years of pressing my hair, getting it pressed with pressing combs and the curling irons, it was very straight on the end. So when people first saw my hair, they would say things like, are you okay? And what are you doing with your hair? So, so I had those kind of questions. And even I had my employers address me about my hair and ask me, is this how I was going to wear my hair? Am I okay? Those kind of things. So it really wasn't much of like a discrimination, more so than it was curiosity. But again, talking to other people and finding out their stories and how they have been encountered by some of their employers about actually taking their braids out of their hair or straightening their hair and making their hair look smoother. That really disturbed me. And so one of the things I said to them was, well, do you know what your rights are? Are you aware of the Crown Act of 2019? And unfortunately, majority of them really have not heard of it. So that's something that I really would like to talk about tonight. This quote right here, actually, when I read it, it really gave an overview about what we're talking about tonight. And if any of you know, if you're old enough to know, Paul Mooney, may he rest in peace, he was a comedian. And he had this quote, and it said, if your hair is relaxed, white people are relaxed. If your hair is nappy, they're not happy. And so that's pretty much the theme of what I've seen from white people or people who are not of color who do not understand why we decide to go on this hair journey and to wear our hair naturally without being questioned about why are we wearing our hair this way, and to even stating that our hair doesn't look like it's professional, it looks like it's unclean. They've even said that, that it's just unnatural to wear your hair that way. So yeah, this is a common problem that we're still seeing many years from, even with it being 2023, we're still seeing the same problem exist.
And how exactly do we, I'm kind of jumping ahead in your
Okay.
agenda.
Okay.
But I was going to ask, how exactly do you define hair discrimination? And I know you're going to get to that. So,
Oh, okay. Yeah. So before I get to that, this is just an overview of the agenda, which I'm not going to go through all of them, but one of them is to define what hair discrimination is. And of course, the history of Black hair, which many of us are really not aware of. And of course, the racism and the sexism. And it goes on down. And we'll get to those when we get to each slide. So can you go to the next slide, please? So this is actually a definition by Wikipedia. And I'm going to read this because it gives real specific details of what hair discrimination is. So it says discrimination is based on hair texture, also known as texturism. And if you can see this chart next to us, I don't have all of the hair types on here, but honestly, the first time I even heard of a hair type was probably a year or so ago when someone asked me, "Are you a 2A?" And I said, "Well, what is a 2A?" And I don't know if they really understood what a 2A was, because when I looked at 2A, it's like extremely straight hair. So apparently, when people are getting their hair braided and they want their hair to match the braids, they get a certain hair type. And this is how they place their hair in these different categories. So if you see 2A through 2C is not on here, but it goes from straight, and then it goes, the next category is 2B. It's a little more, it's still straight, but it's thicker. And then that's when the waves start coming in at 2C. But on 3A, 3, as you see, the hair gets denser, it gets more curly. And then of course, the 4C is where a lot of people have issue with, because they don't understand, like, why would you wear your hair like that? And what can you do with your hair? Well, the bottom line is we can do whatever we want to do with our hair. And as you see in that 4C style, I think her hair is beautiful. But going on to the hair discrimination definition, it is also a form of social injustice, such as justice in terms of our distribution of wealth, opportunities, and privileges within a society. So of course, if you are being confronted by an employer and being told that if you do not take these braids out of your hair, if you do not come back to work with your hair in a smooth or straight hairdo or hairstyle, then you will lose your job. Then of course, this is going to affect how we get money, how we're going to get, income. We're basing on that job. And so because of these kind of things, we miss out on certain privileges and also opportunities, not only in a job sector, but in community at large. And then the third part of this is that afro textured hair, which I was talking about, the dense hair like you see in 4C, is as compared to straight, wavy, or curly hair. This is considered coarse hair types. And these types are normally viewed as negative, also perceived as unprofessional, unattractive, and unclean. Wow.
yeah, and that's actually something that I thought was really interesting about the Crown Act,
Mhm.
which was definitely part of my inspiration for forming the Styled Life Crown Club, for people
Mhm.
like myself and others who were booking appointments with Styled Life stylists to learn about our natural hair. And what was striking to me is that when we needed legislation to prohibit discrimination against textured hair, but also
Mhm.
that it's relatively new. It seems like it's
Absolutely.
taken a long time to normalize natural hair. How far back would you say discrimination of Black and textured hair goes?
Yes, what you said is absolutely true. I mean, when you think about it, this Crown Act was established in 2019. I mean, that was just 4 years ago. So when you think back about hair discrimination, it actually goes back to the 15th and 16th centuries. And of course, around that time is when there was slavery. Um, the colonizers went to Africa, forcefully took them out of Africa and shipped them over here. And as soon as they hit the land, as soon as they hit North America, they shaved their hair. And they shaved their hair because their hair was their sense of identity. This is how they communicated. And so their intent was to erase their culture. So things are how they would communicate with their hairstyles is through their tribal identity, their marital status. So you would know if they were married or not married or single. And then other personal characteristics was indicated through their hairstyles. And then early on, this not only occurred with women, but it also men also had the hair shaved. So you can imagine that they probably were very intimidated by these African men because they were warriors. And so in order to reduce the communication and the strength of this community, they cut off their culture, they cut off their hair as a symbol of cutting out their culture and their communication. And so as a result, they had to wear headscarves because their hair started to burn when they were out there in the fields, and also to prevent them from getting lice and other diseases once their hair grew back. And as a result, okay, that's okay. We can go on with it. We can go on. That's okay. So other things that were significant during this time was their styling tools, because as you know, they didn't have anything. They left with absolutely nothing. So they didn't have any of their own minerals, their own products that they use from the earth. So they had to turn to things like butter, kerosene, bacon grease, and they also use, and you can see the picture here on the far left, the upper left of the screen. That is a picture of what they use for livestock to comb their hair. So this is what they had to reduce to in order for them to care for their hair, because nothing was provided for them. And just imagine working in the fields all day, being exposed to the sun, your hair is going to dry out. So you have to have your hair dry, hydrated. So we as African folk, we always create, we are very creative people. So they use what they had in hand. And then so as we go on further, um, when it came into play about this good hair thing, and as you know, and I'm going to say this, some of this information that I'm going to say may offend some people, but it is factual. So let me just say that first. But there were, of course, incidences where the slave masters would rape the slaves, the women slaves. And of course, they were produced biracial children. And because their skin was fairer, they were allowed to work in the slave master's house, where the darker skin will work in the fields. So then there became this, I don't know if you can call it, it was, I'm sure, some division and strife and contention because of this hair thing. So of course they had fair skin and they had straighter hair. So then, of course, they people that were of color, of the slaves that worked in the field, they would then, of course, want their hair to be straighter, and they began to use different items such as lye, which we know is very corrosive, and that it also causes severe burns to the scalp. And also, lye can be found in things such as drain and oven cleaners. So that's how corrosive it was. But they still, because of their insecurities with their hair, and because of the perception that straight hair was supposed to be beautiful, that's what they resulted to. That's what they did. Next slide, I'm sorry. Then I have one more slide about Black hair history. So as a result of all this, now, mind you, slavery was abolished in 1865, but still there were some people who reacted to it in a way where they did not want to accept it. And they still placed African Americans in a place of being slaves. They wanted to make sure they identified as slaves, even though they were not technically slaves. And so in New Orleans, the slaves that went there, and this was in the 18th century, that's when they used to call them Creole women. So the lighter skinned, fair skinned women, sometimes they would pass as being white. And because that was a big problem there, they wanted to make sure they distinguished who were the slaves and who were actually the white women. So they passed this legislation for them all to wear what's called a tignon. So you can see this in each of these pictures. So it's essentially a headscarf. So they had to wear the headscarf wherever they went. And so when anyone saw them with a headscarf, they automatically knew they were a slave, despite how they looked, whether they were fair skinned, whether they had straight hair, they were all identified as slaves.
Wow, that's interesting. I never knew that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I never knew that. That's really interesting.
Yes, and even nowadays, you can see a lot of us. I mean, we still, and I don't think a lot of people really understand too, like where this comes from, but a lot of us still wear our hairdresses, but they're adorned with jewelry and all kind of things now. So it's a different type of hairdress. But then we fast forward to the latter part of the 1800s. And of course, we all heard of Madam C.J. Walker, who she was not only American businesswoman, but she was the first female self-made millionaire in America. And that was because of all of her hair products that she created, but more specifically of the hot comb. And because when it was first created, it was very, the opening wasn't that wide. So she created one where the teeth were wider. And so people with the texture hair, if you will, can use it and be able to straighten their hair.
I know you're going to be talking about the Black liberation movement as a symbol of resistance. And how does that tie into Black hair? How does it relate to wearing afros? What did it mean to Black people to see leaders wearing afros when, for so many years, the go-to was using a relaxer to achieve what we're talking about, which was like the idea that straight hair was good hair. So what is that? What relationship did Black hair and the afro have to Black liberation movement?
Well, that's a good question. And I think mostly because Black people wanted to just have their own identity. For many years, because they were straightening their hair, that's not who they were. They weren't born with that type of hair. And the only reason why they were wearing their hair straight is because they thought that their white counterparts would be more accepting of them. But because they became more educated, for one thing, and then also there were so many different atrocities still going on within this Black culture from the white counterparts or white people who were involved in, of course, in like the KKK, which they were very prominent back then. And so many of them were being lynched. Many of their homes were being burned, their businesses. Sometimes their children and their wives were being raped. So they got to the point where they said, you know what, we are going to now stand up for ourselves. We are going to be a source, a Black power source, and we're going to just form this resistance against all of these atrocities that were happening against us. So along the time when the civil rights movement occurred, is when the Black Liberation Movement also occurred. So they were hand in hand. And they reacted to a lot of these moderate mainstream tendencies that was motivated about their safety, as I said before, and for self-sufficiency. Because many of the things that they needed, like your basic necessities like food, clothing, shelter, they were all dependent upon someone else to do that. But they said, you know what, if we form this Black liberation movement, then we can create our own. We can have our own. And then we won't be mistreated by people who believe they're just giving us a handout. And then, of course, when I think of the Afro, I think of Miss Angela Davis. Miss Angela Davis, she was representative of that Afro. And I have a quick story about an Afro with my sister. I don't know if she's on. She said she would be on tonight. But my younger sister and I, we were probably maybe 8 or 9 years old, maybe a little bit older. And we wanted to get an Afro. And my dad told us, because our hair was very long and fairly wavy, my father said, well, I don't think that you're going to be able to get an Afro. And we were like, please, Dad, please. So my dad said, okay. So he took us to this barber and we got our hair in this big Afro. I mean, I'm talking about this high. And I tell you, we went out there just so proud, running around, showing everybody. And I was saying, the next few minutes, guess what happened? The hair flopped. So we had our few moments of fame of being Angela Davis, mini me's, but I think that was representative of a lot of women back in the day too, because Angela Davis also became a symbol of resistance during the Black liberation movement. By the late 1960s, it kind of took a turn because at first it was about self-sufficiency, self-preservation, but then it became about being violent. Because there was so much violence that was placed upon African Americans, again, being lynched, having their homes taken away from them, things being burned down. And then at this time was Malcolm X came into play. He was a forefront of his religion. And then the Black Panther Party also was created. So they were known to be very militant. They were known to possess weapons, and they were also known to be very violent. And at this time, also Angela Davis became a member of this party, and also was in the company of many of the Black Panther Party members. This is also when the women's right movement was created as well. And it's also called the Women's Liberation Movement. You can see the picture over here, the young lady on the far right at the bottom. She says here, she was representing Black Panther Party for self-defense. And that's what they were teaching a lot of the women too, how to defend themselves in the event they will be attacked or be raped. And then also, as it went on in the 1960s and 70s, there was some diverse social movement throughout the United States. It wasn't just the South. So everybody began to embrace this movement.
There's so much about the history of Black hair, as you said, from the time that slaves were brought over and their heads were shaved so that they didn't have that form of communication or community with one another. If their stories and in addition to their identities were removed from their heads, I bet there's a lot of people, including myself, who just don't even know so much about the beauty of our history and the pain and the that of our history and everything that's really kind of gotten us to where we are in 2023. Do you think that do you think that the outlook on natural hair is the same in 2023? Like, what are some things that have been used as tools to help push positivity for natural hair? Now, we talked about the Crown Act, that
Mhm.
that passed in California. Uh,
Yes.
California being the first state. I think now we're up to 12 or 13 states, but
I
still a
think
lot.
it's 18
Is
have
it 18?
joined from what I last read.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
So
it's
still a
quickly
long
catching
way to
on.
go.
Well,
But
it absolutely is.
yeah, but what things have changed? Where are we now, do you think?
Well, I think now because we are progressing as a society, especially with technology, that really has helped a lot because many people may have heard about the advancement of our rights as far as the Crown Act. Um, but now that we're in this technology and social media plays a great role and has been a great catalyst for change in this Black hair movement. And so there's three things that I would like to highlight about this change. And the first one is that the online hair community has given women of color a sense of belonging. So there's so many different communities that you can be a part of. And we'll talk a lot about style life and what style life does as well. But as you go online and you you look at various hairstyles, for instance, and you hear other people's stories, then you start to feel like you're more relatable, like you can relate to other people's pain and their struggle and their journey, their hair journey. And then also it helps women to identify with a group by sharing their same story and their values about Black beauty. So we began to understand that this is who we are. We embrace our hair. And we realize, you know what, despite how my hair looks, if I'm a 4C or I'm a 2A, it doesn't matter. I'm still beautiful. And then the third thing, how it has affected or contributed is that it has contributed to the empowerment of Black women and the promotion of their hair types. Since again, um, the 4C, if you were a 4C, people would say certain things about your hair being coarse, being in the common word they would use being nappy. But I see so many people now that are embracing their hair, and it's a beautiful thing that people are just accepting of who they are. And you can see their self-esteem also improving as well.
Yeah, you're right. I think that that social media has played a huge part in bringing community together. I know for myself, I think it was 2014, Chris Rock's movie Good Hair, that
Mhm.
had a huge impact on me watching that movie and thinking, okay, yes, my hair had been chemically relaxed for decades. And I'm watching this movie and thinking, it's so ingrained in me that that's how hair should be. It was maybe not even, I wasn't even thinking every day, oh, I must have good hair by straightening. It was just
Mm,
like, this is what I do. Um,
yes.
and I did decide after watching that movie, I wanted to go natural, but it took me many years after, because I didn't have community. I mean, we had social media to some degree, but certainly not what it is today, you know?
Absolutely.
And I didn't have a Styled Life Crown Club where I could learn from experts. I didn't have anyone in my immediate community who could help me through the process of transitioning. And I did feel very alone. I think you're right. Social media has helped to make it easier for so many of us looking for all of this guidance and all of the help.
Absolutely. And I had a very similar experience as you, also thinking that that was the example of beauty, getting your hair pressed. I never went through the relaxer stage, but when you get your hair pressed for decades, then, of course, you don't realize at the time, but it really causes a lot of damage to your hair because you're exposing your hair to all of this heat. And not only that, to add to that, you spend so much money going to the hair salon I don't know how often you went, but I used to go every 2 weeks, sometimes once a week. And if you're talking back then, when I first started, hair probably was it probably cost me $60 to $80. And then of course, as time went on, it increased. Then you get these hairstylists who are well known and you want to go to their hair salon and then you're paying more money. But yeah, I mean, that whole, and I just one day just said, after I had, now this is a true story. One day after I got my hair pressed, I kept smelling like this burn smell, like hair smell. You know how that smells when your hair gets burned. And so I went home and I started looking through my hair and I said, wait a minute, there's like a gap in here, you know? And because I had long hair at the time, you couldn't see it visibly because it was underneath. And so the next time I talked to my hairstylist, I said to her, said, if you burn my hair, would you let me know? And then she told me, no, I wouldn't tell you. And from that point on, I said, you know what? I come here, spend this amount of hours and this amount of money every time I come in here, and then you know, you're going to burn my hair and not tell me, okay, I'm going to have to flip this up, you know, switch this up and do something different. So that's what really started my hair journey.
Social media has really propelled that along, as we were saying.
Absolutely. And it wasn't because, like you said, there wasn't much available. And then once I was able to go on social media, I was like, oh, wow, you know, other people are going through this struggle as well. And yeah, I could do my hair like this. And let me try that. So it's been very helpful.
So yeah, so although we're moving in the right direction with acceptance of natural, kinky, curly textured hair, what are some ways that natural hair is still discriminated against, even as like microaggressions or ignorance, like people just don't even know, etc.
And it's so unfortunate. I've talked to so many people, and it's a common theme that even today, and I'm talking about just within the last from a year up until like a few weeks ago, you know, the same theme is that people are, especially in these days and times, people are trying to get jobs. They're going to school, they're getting educated, they're going to jobs, and they're hoping to have, you know, a wonderful future at this job. But there are still people, because of whatever reason, like I know a friend who actually recently had a child, and you know, if you had a child, you know how it is to care for a baby. And for the sake of just saving time, she placed her, she went to a professional and got her hair braided. So her hair was really nicely done. So when she went to work in this hairstyle, her employer approached her and told her, you will not be able to work for this company because it's making people very uncomfortable, and your hairstyle is unprofessional. And so you're going to have to take out these braids and you're going to have to wear your hair, they say smooth. I don't think they understand pressing or relaxing. They'll say smooth hairstyle. And so she was so upset about that because she says, first of all, I just got this job. I don't have any money to get my hair done on a regular basis. So what am I going to do? So she began getting her hair done, like pressing and all the things that she really did not want to do. And then eventually, when she couldn't afford it, she began wearing a wig. So these are the things that we are still being exposed to, and we're still being discriminated despite the Crown Act. And there's another incident I'd like to talk to you about when I recently retired from this job, so I can talk about this openly, but it was with a group of youth. So I worked in a youth facility in a probation department. And what was happening was that when these youth would arrive at this facility, many of them would come right off the street or were just in a detention center. So they came with the hairstyles that they were arrested in. And most of them would have braids, protective styles. Some would have weaves. And the first thing that a lot of these staff members, especially that they weren't people of color, you have to take that out. Take out your hair. These girls were devastated because number one, this gave them some type of self-esteem. by having their hair done. You take the hair down, then what? They didn't have any products. And it just kind of reminded me of how it was in slavery time, because they were relegated to what was going on there. And it was like, if you don't do this, this is going to happen. And so these girls were they were stressed out, they were crying. And I heard about it. So myself and then one of my coworkers, we decided we were going to stand up for these girls. So we actually went to our boss, talked to him, and explained to him how this is affecting them emotionally and psychologically. And so they were actually able to, or willing to change that process. Yeah, even today, this still goes on, unfortunately, despite the Crown Act, despite being 4 or 5 centuries of, from slavery, but we're still dealing with this.
So what are some things that have been used as tools to help push positivity for natural hair?
I think when we look at studies and we look at the movies, like you mentioned, Chris Rock's movie, we get a better idea of what people are thinking. And I think once we get the results of these studies and we hear from other people, then it actually brings us to the attention that, this is very problematic and we have to do something about it. So this is why I want to talk to you about this good hair study. We keep talking about these words, good hair, because this is a common verbiage that's used when we talk about Black hair. So with this study, so this gives a backdrop of the study. So this occurred in August 2016. So this was prior to the Crown Act. And the Perception Institute, their intention was to give this test or this study to various people of various colors. And they wanted to find out if there was either implicit or explicit bias of Black women's hair. So, and they also wanted to find out if Black women also shared this bias. And so this is what they found out. Now, you can see this picture on the right side. You can see all of the hair types starting with 2A. That's what I was referring to. So they showed them something similar to this with these various hair types and asked these various questions. And so this is on average, what they found out about white women, that they showed explicit bias towards Black women's textured hair. They also rated as less beautiful, less sexy, less attractive, and less professional than what they call smooth hair again. Also, they said that Black women in the natural hair community have significantly more positive attitudes. In other words, we embrace our hair, as we were talking about now, where always that hadn't been the reason, or we hadn't been that, open to it. And they have more positive attitudes towards textured hair than other women, including Black women in the national sample. Also, now this is the one that really got me here. Millennial naturalistas have more positive attitudes toward textured hair than all other women. And I would say, I understand, I mean, that makes sense because they didn't grow up in the ages of the 60s, the 70s. And so they're in the here and now, and this is all they know. And I love the fact that they are so positive and have this high self-esteem about themselves and have embraced their natural hair journey. So yeah, it just brings us to all that we talked about, starting from history in the 15th century, all the way through the 60s and the 70s. And here we are in 2023, still dealing with this hair discrimination. So of course, it's going to cause some kind of emotional backlash or emotional problems with people who are experiencing this. And so there is a term called marginalized identity stress. So this is a psychological term. It is real because of people being marginalized, being felt like that they're lower than the white people, feeling like they're inferior, feeling like they are of no value. So then, of course, this is going to cause some stress. It's going to cause anxiety. It even will cause depression amongst this marginalized group. So this term is used to describe stress that people from these groups, the marginalized groups, experience to more frequent experiences of discrimination. So this is something that's going on daily, not only just with your hair, but just in general, just in life. So this includes harassment. Of course, we talked about the systemic racism. So the systemic oppression, which also have barriers, stigmatization, and then of course, sometimes they feel like they're isolated. And these type of stressors can lead to mental health issues, as I said, like depression and anxiety. So the effects of these are that there is a prevalence of exposure to trauma. When you are in a situation consistently, chronically, it is going to result into trauma. And you'll see on this next slide, once we get to it, don't turn yet, right? But you'll see that there are going to be different types of behaviors, different types of emotions that are attached to this trauma. And coping with this stress becomes a very difficult task because of the potential of exploitation and also exclusion. Also, we're going to continue with these effects. So you're talking about these individuals feeling like they're isolated from the social fabric of our communities, and they also can feel paranoid. I can tell you when I was on my hair journey, when it was so difficult for me trying to find out how I'm going to style my hair, what products to use. And I would walk in a crowd and I would see people talking. Now, they could have been talking about anything, but I said, yeah, I bet they're saying something about my hair. So these are the kind of things that we experience when we're dealing with this, because we don't know who is saying something about us. We don't know what we're feeling. It's causing all these different thoughts, these different struggles with our mental health. And then also being in the situation, you can feel invisible. I'm sorry, I gotta move this. I'm trying to read this thing.
I was just thinking, I just wanted to jump in here because you talked about, wondering what other people were thinking. I had a very similar experience. I was with my sister some time ago, growing out my natural hair, and we were getting ready to go out, and I just felt like my hair didn't look good enough. My natural hair, as still learning how to do it. And I was really struggling with it. And she said, nobody knows what, there's no one, she said to me, there's no one way for your hair to look. And she said, and nobody knows how it looked yesterday and how it's going to look tomorrow. She said, just feel comfortable the way it is right now. And that wasn't an aha moment for me, because she was right. Our hair doesn't look the same every day or even all day every day. But it's beautiful the way it is. But I did have that moment of insecurity, I would say, like, oh, can I, I'm wearing my natural hair, but can I go out unless it looks perfect?
Absolutely. I'm glad you said that, because that is so true. And when you add stress to it, because stress has a lot of effects to your body, and that's one of them. Sometimes people's hair falls out, so then you have another added stress. You're already trying to find out and navigate through this whole hair process, your natural hair journey, trying to figure out how to wear your hair, etc. And I know that there have been times, like with me, I will sometimes fall asleep with just nothing on my head. So I would know in those times, more than likely, my natural oils will probably be depleted. I'm going to have to add more product or what have you. But then there are times when, it was very hydrated and I didn't have issue with it. So you're right. Sometimes you're going to have those days where you have a quote unquote good hair day and not. But one time I tested it. I had to get my hair trimmed. And in order for me to get my hair trimmed, my stylist told me, you have to blow dry your hair. So, okay. I hadn't dried my hair in so long. It took me like 3 times to blow dry it. And even when I got there, it still wasn't straight enough. She said, no, you need to do it a little straighter. But anyhow, she trimmed my hair. And then she said, She says this to me, "Do you want me to put some curls in it, or do you want me to straighten it?" I said, "No, leave it like it is." I did not go out. I left there. I had to go grocery shopping. I had to do all these errands, and I went around with my hair just flowing and just all over the place. And I tell you, I got so many looks, but I did not care. I really did not care. So that was then when I realized I really don't care what people think about my hair. If I'm okay with it, then that's fine, and that's all that matters.
Well,
Mhm.
and then we're coming to the top of the hour. And I'm
Okay.
just wondering if there are some things you can talk to us about what we can do to combat, whether the insecurity or stresses or any of these things that we're dealing with, wherever we are in our natural hair journey.
We typically know when we're stressed. When we can feel it in our bodies. We ruminate on certain things that bother us. Even when we wake up in the morning and we think about what we're going to do when we go, how am I going to do my hair when I go to work? Is it going to be accepted? What have you? So we have all these stressors going on. And what we can do is like do things at home that can actually help to us to manage our stress. And some of these stress management strategies are like getting regular physical activity. That could be simply going to the closest park near you, walking around the park. If you have like a stair climber at home, just get on there for, 5 minutes or give yourself 200 steps or whatever it is. And then also, you can even ask a group of people to be with you so you can make it even more impactful. Also, you can practice some relaxation techniques such as deep breathing, meditation, yoga, tai chi, or even get yourself a massage at the closest massage therapist. And then the one thing too is always to keep a sense of humor. They say laughter is good for the soul. So this helps also with your health. There's various studies on laughter and humor when it comes to your health. And also spending time with your family, your spouse, your friends, people that love you, people that care about you, people that don't judge you and just accept you for who you are. And then also set aside time for hobbies such as reading a book or listening to music, which I love listening to music every single day. That sets the tone for me. Some other people may have a favorite scripture that they read every day. And then finally, also make sure you get plenty of sleep because sleep is restorative and it helps with our overall health. It also helps us to get through these stressful and anxious days and even to lower our feelings of depression. Eat a balanced diet, eliminate tobacco, caffeine, alcohol, and of course, the use of illegal substances. Next slide, please. Thank you. So again, the key is to act. Now, of course, if you've tried these things and they're not working, then it's a possibility that you may be dealing with chronic stress and you may need to see a professional. So because we are not professionals, we use the sort resources that we have. And many people don't know this, but you can go to your general physician and inform them, say, this is what I've been dealing with. I may need to see a professional. Can you give me a referral? So that therapist, that psychiatrist, what have you, will do an assessment to determine if you are in fact dealing with acute stress or chronic stress. And also they will provide different sources of stress and learn anti-stress tools and coping skills to deal with. Grounding exercises helps us to get back to our normalcy. And what I mean is like many times when we are exposed to trauma or we have triggers to certain things like this type of subject, which talks about slavery and the 60s, which a lot of people were brought up
Don't
in,
worry if we
it may
move
bring
on.
back memories and
You can
cause
start.
stress.
Don't worry if we move on too soon. You can start this recording again at the end if you like. Firstly, can you think of 5 things that you could touch? Now think of 4 things that you can hear. Now think of 3 things that you like. Let's try 2 things you can smell. And finally, can you think of 1 thing that you can taste right now? If you're feeling low, anxious, or overwhelmed, text the letters VIP to 85258 for free. That number again is 85258 for confidential support at any time of day or night. This service, in partnership with Shout, is anonymous and won't show up on your phone bill.
Okay, thank you for that. So this is just one example that, of course, you can Google any type of, just type in grounding exercises when you're feeling stressed. And also, I just want to recommend one more thing. There's a Calm app. You can go download that. You have white noise that you can listen to at night if you have problems sleeping, or if you just need some downtime to de-stress.
I do want to thank everyone for joining us for today's webinar, and a special thank you to Miyoshi Dorsey for sharing so much insightful information about the history and meaning of Black hair. Today's webinar, The Psychology of Black Hair, is one of the many webinar installments we offer at the Styled Life Crown Club. We've had 3 webinars before this one, covering topics from caring for curly hair to learning more about protective hairstyles. To learn more about the Crown Club, I encourage you all to visit SL for Styled Life, crownclub.com, and subscribe to our email list to stay up to date on all things Crown Club. Above all, Crown Club is about finding and creating community where anyone can learn how to care for and style textured hair. So at this point, I'd like to ask if anyone has any questions. Go ahead and you can put your hand up or put something in the chat. And we are going, Miyoshi has a giveaway. So I'm going to let her,
3 giveaways.
she's got 3 giveaways. So I'm going to let her talk about the giveaways and go ahead. And then I'll let you guys know. How you, and what we're going to decide, we're going to pick the winners as soon as she talks.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you. So one of the gifts that I have is actually, it's called a Stress Less kit. I don't know if you can see this. It's kind of right there, but it's a nice package. And in this package, there is an aroma diffuser, also an essential oil. So you can pour that in the aroma diffuser, and it has a lot of health benefits when you have aromatherapy. And then also I have a hand sanitizer, and I have a stress less ball, or a stress ball, I should say, and a lavender pouch. So you can place this in your drawer, anywhere in your house. And you know, lavender also has very relaxing benefits. So that's the first one. And then the other one, or the other 2, this is just one of the designs of this one, but this is like a cosmetic pouch. You can use it for your different utilities or what have you, but inside of here, I have a lot of little goodies, mostly like hygienic things and also anti-stress products I have in here. So these are the 3 items that I have to give away.
Okay,
So
great. Thank you. Yeah. So does anyone have any questions? We're going to open it up right now. If anyone has any questions. Oh, and let's see, what is her? Can you recommend any natural hair care salons in Southern California? Oh, actually, Safina, one of the things that Crown Club has is a directory, because if you're like me and you were looking for someone within your area who could help you with your hair care journey, you know, it could be frustrating, and maybe you found someone, maybe not. So yeah, if you go to styledlife.crownclub.com and sign up for our newsletter, we're going to have a whole bunch of information on in there, because we definitely have a directory that we're building on, so that whether we're traveling or moving or even just wherever we live, we'll be able to find someone, excuse me, who actually knows how to care for and style naturally textured hair.
Okay, great.
Okay, thank you. So now I'm going to say the first 3 people who put in the letter A in their emails so we can contact you will receive the prizes. We'll receive the giveaway.
Okay.
So
The letter
just put
A.
in, all you have to do is put in your email address, the first 3 people we get. Have you given a presentation on how to care for coarse hair? Carol, we have not. Thank you for that. We're always looking for suggestions on what people want to learn about. Absolutely. And if you give us your email address and you say coarse hair, we'll make sure to let you know when we have something related to that. But we've got a whole calendar of a variety of webinars planned out through the year. So please check our website. Again, sign up for the newsletter and see what we have coming up. And like I said, if you want to take a look at our previous webinars, you can look at short form versions or longer form versions on our website, and catch up on all things Styled Life Crown Club.
And can I acknowledge, also I see Arlene on here. Excellent presentation. Thank you. She's my sorority sister from the greatest sorority in the world, Delta Sigma Theta sorority. But anyways, hello, thank you for supporting. And then I see a comment from Marquita. She says, thank you for your presentation. I found that wearing my kinky hair in general spaces is still attention grabbing. Thank you for celebrating natural hair. Thank you so much, Marquita. That's my sister-in-law. Oh, I got a lot of my people on here.
Thank you.
God bless you guys.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, we all do need to be celebrating our natural hair. Exactly. Thank you for that.
It looks like Janice is the only one in this chat that gave email address, but I think we should probably, I don't know, maybe the first 2 people that made a comment, include them as well.
Sure, let's do that.
So we have Kimberly,
Okay,
so we'll have Kim, Janice, and Safina. And I'm going to Kim and Janice. I know for sure you know how to get in contact with me. Safina Tilk. Now that name is not common, so you must be either my sorority sister or my sorority sister's sister. So just talk with her and get the information from her and find out. Oh, it looks like somebody's commenting now. I'm sorry, Kim. Oh, so we do have 2 more. I'm sorry. Kim, she was one of the ones, Janice, and then we have Carol.
Again, a big thank you to Miyoshi for this incredible hour. And everyone, please visit styledlifecrownclub.com for more information. Wherever you are, have a great rest of your day, evening, and wear your crown with pride.